You'll be learning a little bit more about Fort Mackinac later on in the tour, though, so that's all I'll say about it right now. Over to the right here, folks, this white building is the Dr. Beaumont Museum. However, back in the early 1800s, this was known as the American Fur Company Retail Store. It was basically the only place here on the island to get meat goods for about 20 years or so. I always compare it to Walmart. Basically the Walmart Supercenter here. Since then, we have renamed it the Dr. Beaumont Museum. That's because somewhere around this area, a man by the name of Alexis St. Martin was accidentally shot in the stomach. Dr. William Beaumont was a surgeon at the fort, and fortunately, he was able to save St. Martin's life. Unfortunately, the wound in his stomach never completely healed. So he ended up with about a quarter-sized hole in the wall of his stomach. Through that hole, Dr. Beaumont did about 250 experiments. What he would do is he would take different types of food, such as meat, bread, or fruit, tie those to a string and feed them down the hole. Kinda gross, huh?
Yeah.
He would then pull those out and see how St. Martin's stomach digested them differently. So it is based on many of the studies that we know much of what we know today about the digestive system. Has anyone heard of Royal Oak, Michigan?
Yeah.
You might have heard of the Beaumont Hospital then. That's down in Beaumont. That's in Royal Oak as well, and it's also named after Dr. Beaumont. Over there on the right, these two big white buildings are the original headquarters of John Jacob Astor's American Fur Company. The first building is where the offices were located. The second larger building right here is where he stored the furs. To give you folks an idea of how busy this was, in 1822 he sold over $3 million worth of fur. On the right, this is our courthouse and police station. I hope none of you end up there later today. Right behind that is a very large garage. You'll see one of these doors. That garage does house some of the only motorized vehicles that we allow here year-round. We do allow 4 motorized vehicles here year-round. So we do have 1 police SUV, 1 fire truck, and 2 ambulances. Besides that, though, we are very strict with our rule of no motorized vehicles. Over on the right, this is the R.H. Benjamin Blacksmith Shop. He gives live demonstrations throughout the day. Something at the time that's really neat to watch. Little note about all these historical buildings downtown, such as the Biddle House on the right and the Blacksmith Shop. Those are included with admission to Fort Mackinac, so if you do decide to go see Fort Mackinac later, you can also see these downtown. Coming up here on the right is a very beautiful bed and breakfast. It's one of our island's many bed and breakfasts, so this is the Mativier Inn. Little note about all of these, most of them used to be private residences that were converted into places for folks to stay. I'm sure you all noticed that we do have a lot of fudge shops on the island. Yeah. We do have a total of 18 fudge shops here. 17 of those are located in the downtown area, and the 18th is up the hill. I always tell folks that we do have another fudge shop here. Those are the roads. I don't think you want to take any road fudge home with you, though. Probably want to leave that here. Over there to the left, those 2 big green and white buildings are called the Twilight and Windsor. The Windsor and Twilight used to be the main hotels here back in the early 1900s. Since then, they have been converted into employee housing for the Grand Hotel. The whole lot to the left of us here, where those buildings sit, is where St. Anne's Catholic Cemetery used to be located. The cemetery was located downtown until the early 1920s, when they moved that to the state park. The reason they moved it is because it was a little bit somber to get off the ferry and see a cemetery. They didn't really want a cemetery in the downtown area. They also moved it, though, because it was just becoming a little bit too crowded. Interesting story about when they moved the cemetery. So when they moved it, they put the caskets in one buggy and the headstones in another buggy.
Oh
Oh, that was right.
no.
When they got to the new plot, those are all mixed up. All they could really do is match headstones with caskets, so we don't really know who is who up there. The street we're turning onto right here is Cadott Avenue. We also call this Lilac Lane and Grand Avenue. I won't tell you folks why we call it Grand Avenue. You'll have to figure that one out by yourself. I will tell you though, why do we call it Lilac Lane? Many of the varieties of lilacs that are found here on the So it's actually the most varieties of lilacs that you'll find anywhere in the world on a plot of land this small. Little known fact about the lilacs here is that they're not native to the island. They're actually brought here by the French when they moved here in the late 1600s. Over on the left there, that's the oldest known lilac bush on the island. It's more like a tree nowadays. Any guesses as to how old that is?
Oh, wow.
It's really old, huh? Well, you know, we don't exactly know how old that is. The reason we don't know is because we'd have to cut it down to find out. Experts do say that it could be anywhere from 100 to 300 years old. So it does bloom every spring, and does go to prove that even when you're old, you can still be beautiful. Right behind that was the White House with green shutters. That's Grand Cottage. Grand Cottage is the former home of William Backhouse Astor. William Backhouse Astor is the son of John Jacob Astor, the first company downtown. John Jacob Astor did have his company based here, but he never set foot on the island itself. It's rumored that he didn't set foot on the island because he was deathly scared of boats and water. So he sent his son William here to run the business for him. I think though that maybe his grandson should have been scared of boats and water, because he did die in the Titanic. Any questions, folks? I know I've been talking quite a bit. No questions at all?
I love the turtle.
Let's have a captivated audience back there. So coming up around the right, you'll see the Little Stone Church. The Little Stone Church is very unique. This dates back to the early 1900s. It was actually built from stones that were gathered from around the island. It does have very special stained glass windows. Those windows were made by Tiffany and Company. They're shipped here from New York City. This church only operates seasonally. It does hold roughly 40 weddings there each season though. So the proceeds from those weddings go to the Mackinac Island to open the school. A little bit about our school here. As I said, it is public. We have roughly 80 students there, K through 12. We've had graduating classes that have ranged anywhere from 2 to 10 students. As I said, the proceeds from the weddings do go to the school. Those get put into a scholarship fund for those students who are graduating the next year. This past year we did have 6 students graduate. Can you imagine what that prom would have been like? Each of those 6 students got roughly $20,000 each. Wow. That's pretty neat. Over here on the right, after we pass these trees, you'll see a big white house on the bluff, right over there. That house is the governor of Michigan's summer residence. So that is owned by the state of Michigan, but it's free for the current governor to use at any point throughout the summer. So that's one of the perks of being the governor of Michigan. You do get to use that house. When the state of Michigan purchased that, they paid $15,000. Today that house is valued at around $3.2 million. I'd say they got a pretty good deal, huh? When they purchased that, though, they did sign an agreement that said if they ever sold the house, they would sell it for $15,000 or less. So, I don't know about you folks, but if they do sell that, I have my name on the top of that list. Although I doubt that's ever going to happen. Over on the left here, this is a very famous building. I'm assuming that everyone knows what this building is.
Nope. Grand Hotel.
The Grand Hotel. Yeah, good job, folks. The Grand Hotel is the world's largest summer resort. It was opened on July 10th, 1887. When it was first opened, it was considerably smaller. It had 200 rooms. Today it has 385 rooms. None of those were decorated alike, so that's pretty unique. Any guesses as to how long it took to build the Grand Hotel?
It was like 8 months, wasn't it?
Sorry?
8 or 9 months.
8 or 9 months? Good guess. Any others? Well, actually, you're not too far off. It only took 3 months.
3 months, oh.
3 months. You know, the reason that was possible is they did have a crew of about 600 men working around the clock. The Grand Hotel does hold 2 world records. As I said, it is the world's largest summer resort. It's also home to the world's longest covered porch. The porch is 660 feet long. It has over 100 rocking chairs on that porch alone. As you can see, the ceiling of that porch is painted blue. Anyone know why that's painted blue?
Nope.
Nope. Well, they ran out of white paint. I'm just kidding, folks.
I know that. So the birds don't mess with it.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. It is painted blue to match the sky. That's for two reasons. First one is so the birds don't nest there. Second reason is to keep all the bugs and the insects from congregating there. Whoa. There's also very small wires at the top of that ceiling. Those wires were put there to keep the bats from roosting there. So I think it's pretty clever. Now, 2 Hollywood movies were filmed here. Anyone know what these movies are?
Somewhere in Time.
Good job. Somewhere in Time. That's the more recent of the two. That was filmed back in 1979. Little tidbit about the movie is that it did star Christopher Reeves and Jane Seymour. In the movie, there was a car. While the car was here on the island, they had to pay a daily fee for every day that it was here. Also, whenever that's moving in the movie, you don't really see the front end of it much. That's because it was pulled by horses.
Oh, okay.
So even though they had a car here, they never turned it on. I like to joke that maybe next time we get a car here, we should get one with real horsepower.
All right.
Yeah. Anyone know